In northern China stretches one of the most unforgiving landscapes on Earth, the Taklamakan Desert. A vast ocean of golden sand covering more than 337,000 square kilometers, where for generations wind and dust erased nearly every sign of life. Yet today, something extraordinary is happening. In the heart of this once endless wasteland, green forests are beginning to rise, slowly advancing toward the horizon. Places that were once completely barren, where violent sandstorms could bury entire villages overnight, are showing signs of renewal. Life is returning to land long believed to be beyond saving. The Chinese call this ambitious effort the Green Great Wall, a project so vast it borders on the unimaginable, and now stands as one of the largest ecological restoration programs ever attempted by humanity. Over the decades, hundreds of millions of trees have been planted, and millions of hectares of desertified land have been reclaimed. What was once lifeless sand is being reshaped into living terrain. So how did China achieve what once seemed impossible? How was a desert transformed into a growing ecosystem? And what lies behind this multi-billion-dollar environmental gamble? Let's uncover the story. For centuries, northern China has faced a relentless and silent adversary, sand. Each time seasonal winds surged southward from the Gobi and Taklamakan deserts, enormous dust storms swept across the land. Thick clouds of sand swallowed cities like Beijing, darkening the sky until daylight vanished. By the 1990s, conditions had become so severe that some years, residents of the capital were forced to wear protective masks for more than 80 days, just to breathe safely, while fine desert dust poured in from the north. The Taklamakan Desert came into existence millions of years ago, shaped by powerful natural barriers. To the north rise the Tian Mountains, and to the south stand the Kunlun Mountains. Together, they block almost all moisture carried inland from the Indian Ocean and Siberian air currents, trapping the basin between them in extreme dryness. Over time, this isolation turned the region into one of the largest arid zones on the planet. Rainfall here is astonishingly scarce, less than 100 millimeters a year. That's nearly 10 times lower than California, a place already famous for its dry climate. To grasp just how little water that is, imagine this: each square meter of land in the Taklamakan receives roughly the equivalent of a single 500 milliliter bottle of water per week. For plants, survival under such conditions is almost impossible. The desert's temperatures are just as unforgiving. In summer, the heat regularly climbs above 40 degrees Celsius. In winter, it can plunge well below -20. Sandstorms strike without warning, sweeping across the land with relentless force, showing no mercy to anything in their path. Over time, these harsh natural conditions were made even worse by human activity. Widespread deforestation, uncontrolled overgrazing, and excessive extraction of groundwater weakened the soil and stripped away vegetation. With nothing left to hold the land together, desertification began to spread rapidly across northern China. The mission was bold: to plant 35 million hectares of new forest by 2050. Since 1949, China's forest coverage has already risen from just 10% to more than 25% today. The project is now considered the largest human-made construction on land, not built with steel or concrete, but with persistence, patience, and the living green of nature itself. And it was here that humanity's long-held dream of bringing life back to dead land truly began. So what did China actually do in this multi-billion-dollar effort? The answer might be surprising. The transformation didn't begin with concrete, skyscrapers, or massive machines, but with careful planning. Across the Taklamakan Desert, engineers first studied the land from above. Using satellite imagery and drones, they tracked how sand dunes shifted and how wind carved its path across the desert. With this data, they designed an enormous grid system unlike anything seen before. Their solution was simple, yet powerful. Straw was laid diagonally across the sand, forming giant checkerboard patterns. Each square measured roughly 20 by 20 feet. Across the scorching dunes of western China, these straw grids stretched endlessly, arranged in precise geometric lines. Seen from the sky, the desert transformed into a vast golden chessboard, reaching all the way to the horizon. But beneath this orderly pattern lay an operation of immense scale, technically complex, costly, and carried out in some of the harshest conditions on Earth. Millions of pounds of straw had to be hauled hundreds of kilometers deep into the desert. Vehicles frequently sank into soft sand, and in many areas, there were no paved roads at all. Once the materials arrived, teams of workers began digging shallow trenches and placing bundles of straw along exact grid lines. Under a brutal sun, with temperatures climbing beyond 49 degrees Celsius and no shelter in sight, every task became a test of endurance. Heat and exhaustion were constant companions. Yet thousands of workers continued, because these straw grids were far more than simple barriers. Each woven square played a vital role. The straw anchored the shifting dunes, slowed down powerful winds, and created tiny pockets where moisture could survive. These microenvironments made it possible for the desert to support life once again. With the grid secured, the next phase began. Mechanical drills and planting machines moved in, preparing the sand for the arrival of vegetation, the first step toward turning dunes into living land. These machines bore small openings at the heart of each square, preparing the ground for specially selected, drought-tolerant plants such as saxaul, desert poplar, and red willow. Before ever touching the sand, these seedlings are carefully grown in nurseries, strengthened for survival in extreme conditions. Once transported into the desert, each young plant is placed precisely at the center of the straw grid. Its delicate roots are positioned just beneath the surface, where the straw layer offers critical protection, shielding them from intense heat and constantly shifting sand. Workers then pour in a carefully measured amount of water and firmly press the soil around the base, ensuring the roots connect with the moist layer hidden below. As the weeks pass, the straw grid continues to do its quiet work. It lowers surface temperatures, slows evaporation, and prevents loose sand from washing or blowing away from the seedlings. Gradually, the straw breaks down under the influence of wind, dew, and microorganisms, transforming into an organic covering rich in nutrients. This natural layer feeds the growing root systems, allowing them to push deeper into more stable soil beneath the dunes. What starts as a handful of fragile plants slowly becomes an interconnected web of vegetation, a living green framework that stabilizes the sand and marks the beginning of the desert's long recovery. But trees alone are not the only tool China uses to green the Taklamakan. The second strategy lies in harnessing the desert's greatest force, sunlight. In the heart of the Taklamakan, where the sun blazes relentlessly from dawn to dusk, China has turned intense solar radiation into a powerful energy source, one capable of supporting life across the entire region. China made a daring choice. Instead of fighting the sun, it decided to let the sun grow the forest. This region receives more than 2,700 hours of sunlight each year, placing it among the most solar-intense locations on Earth. Rather than allowing this relentless heat to scorch the land, engineers transformed it into a powerful source of renewable energy. Along the Tarim Desert Highway, stretching over 436 kilometers through the heart of the desert, they built 86 solar-powered pumping stations. Each station is equipped with hundreds of photovoltaic panels that generate electricity to draw groundwater from depths exceeding 100 meters. That water is then carried through an underground pipeline network and delivered directly to plant roots using drip irrigation systems. Thanks to this setup, more than 200,000 trees lining the highway are able to survive in a place where rainfall is almost non-existent. The result is extraordinary. The highway has become the world's first carbon-neutral desert expressway, a system where sunlight creates electricity, electricity pumps water, and water sustains life. To make the most of the space, the solar arrays are raised about 2 meters above the ground. This design allows air to flow freely while vegetation grows beneath the panels. The shaded ground below remains cooler and holds moisture longer, creating ideal conditions for plants such as licorice, red willow, and hawthorn. These species form thriving green zones beneath an artificial canopy of energy and light. Here in the Taklamakan, solar power does far more than illuminate roads or run machinery. It has become a symbol of environmental rebirth. Once feared as the Sea of Death, this desert is now evolving into one of the world's largest open-air ecological laboratories, where sunlight, technology, and human determination merge into a single vision. What was once seen as a destructive force has been reimagined as a life-giving one. In this land long defined by emptiness, humanity has learned how to turn sunlight into water and sand into forest. In a place once ruled by death, the sun itself has become the source of life. Beyond solar panels, thousands of heliostat mirrors stretch across the desert in sweeping arcs. Each mirror moves on two axes, tracking the sun as it travels across the sky. The reflected light is focused onto the peak of a central tower, where molten salt is heated to temperatures above 540 degrees Celsius. That intense heat is then used to produce high-pressure steam, driving turbines and generators to produce electricity. Any excess heat generated during the day is stored inside massive molten salt tanks, allowing the power plant to continue producing electricity long after sunset and even during cloudy conditions. Building and operating this 50-megawatt solar tower in the heart of the Taklamakan Desert is estimated to cost around $130 million. So what do you think? Does this technology impress you? But China's vision for the desert extends far beyond energy and reforestation. In recent years, the outer edges of the Taklamakan and Gobi deserts have been transformed into ecotourism zones. Artificial forests, solar installations, and water reservoirs now double as open-air science parks and travel destinations. In several regions, community-based tourism is beginning to flourish. Eco-friendly lodges are being developed alongside Uyghur and Mongolian cultural traditions, allowing visitors to experience both environmental innovation and local heritage. Travelers can also take part in guided camel treks across the desert, lasting anywhere from 2 to 5 hours depending on the route. These journeys pass through towering dunes and carefully placed rest stops deep within the sands. Prices typically range from just a few dollars to around $120 per trip. By blending conservation, education, and hands-on experience, the Taklamakan has become more than a technological success story. It stands as living evidence that humans and nature can coexist, even in the most extreme environments. Reaching these remote desert regions, however, required bold infrastructure. One of the most ambitious projects in western China is the Taran Desert Highway. Built to link the oasis cities of Luntai and Minfeng, this road cuts straight through the desert for more than 300 kilometers. Construction began in 1993, and against extreme heat, shifting dunes, and relentless sandstorms, the highway officially opened on October 4, 1995. After just over 2 years of construction under some of the harshest conditions imaginable, shifting sand dunes, relentless sandstorms, and temperatures soaring beyond 50 degrees Celsius, the project was completed at a cost of approximately 1.75 billion yuan, or about $260 million. Beneath the smooth layer of asphalt lies a carefully engineered foundation made of gravel, straw mats, and geotextiles, all designed to prevent the desert from slowly consuming the road. Today, this highway does far more than connect distant points on a map. It links remote solar farms and research facilities, while also acting as a vital gateway for ecotourism, guiding travelers through what was once considered one of the most inaccessible regions on Earth. After decades of relentless effort, the outcome has surpassed even the most optimistic expectations. Massive green belts now encircle nearly the entire Taklamakan Desert. According to official figures, China has restored more than 30 million hectares of degraded land, increasing national forest coverage from just 10% in 1949 to over 25% today. In places like Aksu and Chiemor, regions once defined only by endless dunes, vast forests of poplar, hawthorn, almond, and walnut trees now stretch toward the horizon. Scientists estimate that sandstorm frequency has dropped by as much as 82% compared to the 1980s. In cities like Chiemor, the number of dusty days each year has fallen from nearly 100 to just around 30. Land that was once lifeless now absorbs more than 20,000 tons of carbon dioxide every year, forming what many researchers describe as the desert's green lungs. Once feared as the Sea of Death, the desert has finally begun to breathe again. Yet, despite these remarkable achievements, not everyone is convinced that this new green landscape represents a permanent victory. As these numbers rise, so do the questions. Is this new greenery truly permanent, or is it merely a fleeting shade of green? Many ecologists caution that large-scale monoculture, planting mostly poplars and willows, can leave the ecosystem fragile. These trees grow quickly, but they live short lives and depend heavily on groundwater. At one point, a disease wiped out more than 1 billion poplar trees across northern China, erasing years of painstaking progress in a single blow. International studies have also shown that, in some periods, desertification continued to advance despite increases in forested areas. The reasons are clear: trees planted in unsuitable conditions, rainfall too low to sustain them naturally, and prolonged irrigation that further drains precious groundwater. Experts now emphasize that for the Green Great Wall to endure, the focus must shift from simply planting trees to nurturing whole ecosystems. Monocultures need to be replaced with mixed woodlands, including native trees, grasses, and shrubs. Only by restoring nature in its balanced, original form can humanity hope to stand against the desert in a truly sustainable way. There is no question that the Green Great Wall is an extraordinary achievement. Yet it carries a vital lesson: not every green patch is alive if its roots do not belong to the soil beneath it. And now, you've witnessed the full journey of China's desert transformation, from barren, shifting dunes to living landscapes powered by sunlight, science, and human determination. So what do you think? Is this a miracle of nature, or the ultimate triumph of human engineering?